Hello everyone, welcome to the Statera podcast. Today I'm joined by Daithí. How you going, Daithí?
Good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Nice.
House sitting at a friend's place this weekend, so yeah, a bit more of an informal setup for the podcast, but it's good, something a bit different. Daithí, we thought, obviously the big news going around this last week has been the Sydney siege, and it's really been global headlines. Actually, find it interesting, as quick as it sprung up, it's quickly died down as well, and not many people seem to be talking about it over the last couple of days, but thought, let's have a talk about that, the whole scenario itself and how it played out, and different factors involved and different structures and institutions. So maybe start with yourself, and what did you sort of, at any point of it, what did you make of the whole setup?
Well, I suppose one of the interesting kind of parameters around
Shit,
all
can I just
this,
say sorry, Dave?
Yeah.
I said set up, but I didn't mean as in the goal was set up. I meant like as in
Scenario.
I should have said set up was the wrong word.
That's all right, Adrian. We'll let you off on that one.
Thank you, Dave. I'm not one of those people.
But so something interesting to think about in all of this is now we're experiencing news in a 24-hour news cycle. And not only are we getting a 24-hour news cycle on TV, it's on your smartphone, it's on the internet, it's everywhere. Like we saw what Twitter and Facebook have started to do in terms of the influence that they have on these kind of situations. And I think that's one of the first things we need to take into account when understanding how big a news item this is. This is it's a terrible tragedy, and what I would say up to now, like an isolated incident that has just been brought and spread into every person's daily experience. Well, I won't say every, but anybody who engages in general society where people are engaged with current affairs and news. This was the biggest thing, and this will be the thing that has kind of defined what's been happening this week in terms of sentiment going forward between different groups and what governments are going to do and how things are playing out. So,
yeah, definitely.
Well, before we had these tools like Twitter and Facebook at our disposal, we were very much reliant on what is the official news story. And something that's interesting now is we're getting an insight into the fact that there were demands made by the shooter Monis, which, if it wasn't for social media, would never have gotten out.
Sure.
He essentially demanded that he be brought in an ISIS flag and had a conversation with Tony Abbott. And under normal circumstances, we'd never have known that.
Sure.
But now, because of, as I said, just to labour the point, the barriers have been broken down, and we can see on a certain level, what is actually going on, what sort of decisions have to be made, because we then have to take into account that the Australian government made the conscious decision not to call, not to negotiate with the terrorist.
Sure.
In the classic cliche. I'd be interested to see, is there an official policy on how these things are played out?
I would have thought there's a difference between negotiating and talking to someone. Like, to me, I feel like he could have still spoken to the hostage taker, but didn't have to meet his demands or anything. He's not negotiating. He's just like, hey man, what's up? What the fuck's going on? Why are you doing this at least?
That's why I'd like to see if there is actually an official procedure or policy that should be followed, or how that played out, or what was the
official?
What is the reason for taking a particular action?
Yeah.
Is it police bylaws, or is it something that will now need to be addressed?
Sure.
Maybe. I think we're going to see there will be a lot of follow-up legislation coming from this. It does a lot to secure the kind of the moral justification for the data retention laws. You noticed just a couple of days after the incident, there was commentators coming out saying that this potentially could have been prevented if police had access to 2 years of metadata.
Right. And then Philip Ruddock, I think it was, had to go in and talk about that or speak about it or question that.
Who's he?
Philip Ruddock. He's like one of the behind the scenes men in the Liberal. He used to be like a front bencher about 10, 15 years ago. But yeah, they had they did a committee or something when they looked into what would be the benefits and how much would it cost to keep it past two years. So they actively looked into it straight away. How much is this going to cost us to do it?
Yeah.
It's pretty scary. Like straight away, get into it. But I guess as long as they're only questioning it for now and not making any decisions.
Well, that's it. We will have to see how quickly decisions are made. But decisions have already been made on data retention. Those laws have gone through, but now it's just you have, as I said, further moral justification for what at the time would have been, in my opinion, hastily drafted legislation which didn't get the review and discourse that it was due.
Sure, yeah. Quite possibly, yeah. And most probably, yeah. I like the... we just going back before, you're talking about how social media has changed the way we get access to knowledge now and information as what's going on in real time. And I really noticed, like, watching the coverage of this Sydney siege, it was just 24/7. Like, it was just constantly, there's no other program. They just had, like, you know, live from the newsroom, you know, and they'd be constantly, you know, just people coming in and out and constantly talking about nothing, really. Because, you know, it's like they were just really hanging on, like trying to claw at the general population. Come on, watch us. We'll keep you busy. We'll keep you entertained with it. That's not the right word. We'll give you the understanding of it that we know, at least anyway. But they've had to start doing that because of this access to information and access to experiences that we all have now as human beings through the internet. Like, that's becoming much more relevant. Our ability to gather information about the world around us through those means has become a lot more relevant to the old school news media.
Yeah.
And they're just fucking clawing on, like just nails out, hanging on, trying to hang on to us. And so the bombardment and the style of news is really just gone to like some weird fucking level that just doesn't serve us. They're shooting themselves in the foot, really, with the way they cover.
Honestly, I don't think they are. I think they're doing a really good job in achieving the objectives that they're looking to achieve. If you're a news organisation, your job is to get viewers, to make your advertising time worth money so you can sell it and be profitable. And that's what they do. They just keep people hanging on. They go, we'll be back after the break with the latest live from the scene. Just keep people watching this. They're doing a great job on that. But I think what you kind of seem to be describing is people now, you know, going online, getting their information there, but it is in essence the same thing. It's just two different ways of consuming the same media.
Yeah, definitely.
And granted, a lot of the online stuff is, you know, that little bit, you know, a bit more independent. There's more independent
autonomous
voices out there as opposed to on traditional television where you just have, you know, 4 or 5.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with you. I think they definitely are doing a good job, but that's set in that old paradigm where there are still people in that. We're still amongst that fear, and I've got to watch the news, and I've got to understand. And they get the old school news media do a great job of keeping those people in, but it's like something's really changing where more and more people are not wanting to get their information through those manner, or even if they do watch it, it's out of more of an objective, you know, taking themselves from the outside just to actually view what's going on. So it's really is optimistic for the future, but it really also makes me want to figure out, would be interesting, I don't think you ever could though, like which way media is headed. Like the old school, again, I'll just use the word old school, but like the term old school, that's the only way I can use to describe it, but you know, like the news medias of the world and all that sort of thing, with all these new independent like Vice and Young Turks and, you know, really changing the scene of media reporting.
I don't see them being in too big danger in the short term. Like, there's plenty of space. They will ultimately have to go online. Like, that is inevitable.
Sure.
The traditional TV medium is declining. Like, it's just the internet is changing the rules of play completely. Hence, I think we touched on this before. Hence, why net neutrality is of so much importance. That at this time, that we don't allow the big players to dictate the rules of the game in their favour to kind of
Sure.
stop the tide of what's happening.
Exactly, because the same thing will happen again.
Yeah, because their business model is becoming irrelevant, and they want to try and protect their interests, which is what they're supposed to do.
Yep.
And we just have to be mindful not to let that happen, and to recognise
Definitely.
that the internet is the game changer.
Sure.
And we have to make sure that we keep the gates open so that the
Yeah.
game can be changed again and again and again.
Yeah. It literally gave us a new playing field. It gave us a new playing
Yeah.
field, which would then those who wanted to could create anything they wanted to. It's given us the ability to be able to create whatever we want to, and we're doing a good job of it at the moment. You know, things are really changing in this new playground. But yeah, exactly. We've got to be very mindful we don't let the old style powers that be to come in and gain power in it.
Well, they will. You know, that will inevitably happen. These.
Do you believe so?
Of course, like these are the big players that they're going to move online. They're going to have initially a competitive advantage. You know, there will come a time when traditional televisions are going to be changed out for IPTV. You know, everyone.
Yeah.
There will come a time when everyone will be getting their television style information through the a more internet based
Sure.
kind of transmission medium.
Yeah.
And at that time, looking at what we consider to be normal TVs now, would be like, oh wow, look at that thing, like that's
Yeah, using satellite
Yeah.
signals
And as that transition happens, like the people who are in the television, they will still have like a legacy that will carry over and serve them in that. You know, an awful lot of the big news organisations online are like the television news stations online
sure.
place. So they already have a strong hold in the market.
Right.
So
Yeah.
and that's not going to change. It just means that they will be a little less agile because they've got so much of their money and time and training and knowledge and expertise in this particular medium. They're just going to be behind the curve as they come into the online.
Yeah.
Where these other organisations have been, like the likes of the Young Turk, they've come from that television space, experiencing that, but just built it all in the online space, and they're extremely agile and growing
Sure.
really quickly.
Well, that's the thing. That's what's beneficial about them is, well, for their sake and perhaps for ours as well, is that they've got the market share at the moment. It's only those big players are only just starting to come in now and trying to get more space in that realm. They've got less market share at the moment. More people are watching things like Young Turks and Vice and Joe Rogan Experience, for example, than are watching internet-based stories from the big networks.
Yeah.
So that's proven statistically. So, yeah, like that's the one advantage we've got. Our heads in front at the moment. We've got high ground, and just to me, it just feels like we can't give up that high ground.
High ground.
Like we've got the positioning. Like I say, we as in, but like the more of the independent media has a better positioning in the internet realm than it does just through market share, just through sheer amount of people watching
exactly.
it. Yeah,
Because it's a completely open market at
Yeah.
the moment, and that's how it should be.
definitely.
So,
But yeah, so there's a strength that comes from that, strength through numbers really. But then the old style are really going to come in and try and, like you said, keep themselves alive.
Yeah.
Doing whatever it takes.
yeah, and I think it's different between the US and Australia as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's a different wider society. It's a much bigger audience. The numbers online and the numbers listening to various shows and watching particular shows in the US, the numbers are a lot bigger. Here, the numbers are a lot smaller, and it's the same kind of dynamics are playing out,
Yeah.
but on a different scale, I guess. Yeah.
Different intensity too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe it'd be good to go back and talk a little bit about the Sydney siege itself.
Right. Okay.
As well.
Swing it back. Yeah.
What do you reckon?
Go.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about it, just sort of having a quick couple of thoughts about it, I don't even know if it's something that it's hard. I even find it hard to comment on, I guess, because it's such a tragic occurrence, and I think I guess the nationality that comes behind a lot of our thoughts and conceptions, not just nationality but also ethnic backgrounds and religious backgrounds, really does take away from who we are as human beings. All those really structures that are put in place really take us away from who we are and who we are in relation to our fellow man, no matter where they're from. And it just seems to be becoming more and more prevalent, more and more played out at the moment. These divisions that really just they're the ones that seem to really get pushed to the top of the media, bringing media back again. But this other movement that's going on doesn't seem to be getting talked about, and like even though it's bigger. So yeah, I think the guy was obviously not quite right in the head. He had some mental illness. There's no doubting that, given his history.
Is that conclusive, like that he had a mental illness?
Well, I don't know if it's diagnosed. I don't think it was. Yeah.
I don't know about that. I'm not going to say that we can say that to be true.
See, perhaps it's possible that what he was doing, he was completely sane, and his instances before that he was following some direction from an institution.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Like, what we can say, like the acts that he committed, what happened is terrible, tragic. Two people died. Loads of people potentially were in great danger. The guy himself died, and there's no good has or can come of it, really. It's nothing but a terrible event. But to say that he was mentally ill, he was different, definitely, and he was angry, and he was that angry that he put himself in that position. Like, he must have known going into that situation that there was no way he was coming out alive.
Yeah, that it wasn't
realistically.
Going to go well. Yeah, he didn't look like a dumb man. He looked like he might know what he was doing.
Yeah, like he's been in the media for years. Like, people have known about this guy for years. And what I think is really interesting as well is he came from Iran, sought asylum here, was granted refugee status, asylum status, and became a very outspoken person in relation to speaking out against Iran and the regime in Iran. And he became a self-styled sheikh, I think is the term, where he positioned himself as a voice in the community. He was speaking on behalf of Islamic scholars, and the only way he got that position was it was a self-given position,
right.
And all of the other leading people in various Muslim churches, I don't know the name of the proper words, but they went to the secured, like the police, and said, there's something up with this guy. He's not quite right, like he's worth watching for. And this was advice coming from the senior people in the Muslim communities.
Right.
And then he was being watched for a little while, and because he was always speaking out and so forth, he was being watched. But then it ends up where he gets a gun and this happens, and lots of questions will be asked.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but it really is such a large topic, isn't it? Really, God, it's sort of hard to even come up with an understanding of what could be done from here on in to help prevent it again, because so many different complex natures of it, like him as an individual, like his childhood, his background, and to go with a society that he now finds himself in Australia and what he thinks must be done. And yeah, I think the argument whether any good came out of it is definitely something I think should be talked about. I think possibly it did. There was good that came out of it. I think good can come out of it.
What's the good?
The solidarity that Australian people showed.
Yes.
And really worldwide as well.
Yeah.
And there was the meme, I'll
ride with you. Yeah, but who's riding with the missiles that have been rained down in other parts of the world?
Very good point.
Who's riding with the drones? Who's riding with all the bullets that have been shot? I fully support the I'll ride with you sentiment that other people in the community should not feel under threat because of the thoughts and actions of a few bigots. But if we're going to start a movement, and if we're going to start congratulating ourselves about solidarity, let's ride with the people who are getting blown up every day and who live in war-torn countries. And let's speak out about that. Let's speak out about the fact that we are sending troops overseas, in creating war zones.
Then using drones.
Where's the hashtag for that?
Yeah, sure. Definitely Daithí, and it's a fucking travesty. It really is. But I don't think we can blame the people who aren't aware of that yet. It's just been through their conditioning.
Absolutely.
And I know you don't.
I'm a prick. I'm just saying, only a dickhead could say this about something as, honourable and well-intentioned as the "I'll ride with you."
Sure. But no, it's good. I know exactly what you're talking about, though. I do. I agree with you. Like, exactly why aren't we doing it on a large basis? But I really think it comes down to things that aren't in our backyard.
What?
We generally don't give a fuck about, and now we're starting to give a fuck about it though. Slowly but surely, we're starting to do.
So
that.
Here's something interesting in relation to this. The guy made a couple of demands. He demanded to speak he demanded an ISIS flag, and to speak to Tony Abbott on live television, something like that. Now, as we know, that didn't happen. Neither of those things happened. The flag that he had wasn't an ISIS flag. It was a fairly common scripture piece of writing, but the demands were not met. And I've said this to you before about I'd like to see and find out what is the official policy around the police forces and the government negotiating with terrorists. Because if there was a chance that speaking with this guy could have prevented the loss of lives, I would like I would like to understand why, what is the case for that.
Sure.
I can only imagine that from an operational procedure, if you were to try and rescue people from that situation, you either have to do it by speaking with this person to negotiate, their release, or to convince them to let them go, or to keep them distracted while you would run some sort of tactical operation to get people out safely. So the fact that there didn't seem to be any progression on engaging with this guy, for me, I kind of felt this will only end badly.
Yeah, because I mean, why not? What's wrong with Tony Abbott that he couldn't speak to this guy and maybe try and help the situation? I mean, chances are something bad was going to happen. At least one person was going to die. So, and chances are, if Tony Abbott had spoken to this guy, maybe the actual hostages might have died as well. Who knows? But why not try? Why does death have to be the first scenario? Like, you've gone against what we believe in, what we're trying to instill here.
Yeah.
You're a dead man now.
Well,
no questions asked.
Well, let's think about it. The best case scenario in that situation was that nobody would die. That the guy would be engaged, spoken to, and either negotiated with, convinced, or tactically outmaneuvered, so that everybody left the situation unharmed. That was the best case scenario.
Sure.
However, with that comes then a public trial and full explanation on where the guy has been, how he's arrived at this particular state of being, whether he was, mentally ill, as some places have indicated. I don't know how that has been extrapolated.
Yeah, self-diagnoses maybe.
Yeah, and with that would come, the general public talking about, ISIS. Who is ISIS? Let's really get to the bottom of who ISIS is, what they're doing. Why this guy aligned with ISIS? He said that he was. The purpose of him doing what he was doing was to essentially get the message out about why ISIS is fighting the West, in terms of we're over there with with the war machine, and they want us out, and we're justifying our existence over there based on, from a moral and ethical perspective, saying these guys are doing terrible things, we need to go over there and get rid of them. And they're going, the only reason we're here is because you're over here trying to get rid of us, leave us alone, just let us do our thing.
Sure.
And it's just
a
cycle. And I think that if we were to give consideration to it, we would have to would put focus on the question of, the war on terror. Like, people have spoken about this, the war on terror, the war on drugs. Like, other people have said, you can't declare war on a noun.
Sure. Yeah.
The war on terror. When do you win the war?
Yeah.
When all terror has been eradicated.
Yeah.
Realistically.
Exactly. What the fuck's terror?
And so the best case scenario that I described would be a big box of worms for a lot of other people, for a lot of governments to explain about what's gone on in different countries over the years that has created these particular types of situations. And
yeah, so like perhaps I'm doing some self-reflection and saying, maybe this is happening now because this happened in the past here, and we did this, and now it's created this situation. But and they know. They'll just never come out and publicly say it. That's their big reason for what's going on over there at the moment and all the bloodshed and disaster. They're a big reason. But I have to admit, there's also a part of me that understands too that has been a volatile part of the world for a long period of time, with some real potential to really fuck each other up, and even potential to fuck the rest of us up through if they decided to do something. And I reckon maybe a lot of what, especially the US-based insurgents into that area, is them actually believing they're doing it for good. Like, they're preventing these people from destroying themselves and everyone else, or like destroying, perhaps, but I mean, you always use the common thing of, we're just protecting our safety, we're protecting our country. That's generally what they say, don't they? When they decide they're going to go in somewhere. Yeah. Or they're doing it for humanitarian reasons.
Yeah, well, that's it. The one of, I'm protecting...
Like Syria, for example.
Yeah, I'm protecting my country. That one doesn't really work so well anymore. You can't go, we're protecting our country over there.
Yeah.
I say, okay. And some of the more excuse me, the more recent excursions into Iraq and Afghanistan over the last 10 years were under were predicated on this thing of, we're doing this to protect our freedom. And when they tried to go into Syria, people weren't buying it. But then, as you said, it goes from being an interest of national interests and freedom to humanitarian interests.
Sure.
And that's the justification now. But now it's tied in again. Now that the battlefield, the ISIS battlefield, has been brought to the centre, the CBD of a developed country who was on the other side of this war over there.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big development.
Yeah, it is, definitely. Do you believe, though, it's our choice, the public's choice, and then sway which way our government processes go towards this as far as legislation? Do you think we, as the public, have the ability to...
Adrian, yes, I do. I absolutely think that things like this are a matter of public importance.
Definitely.
I think, of course, people need to know what's going on, what's been carried out in our name. We need to have the discussion as a country, as a nation, as people, as to, is this the right thing to do? Really get to understand the why. But instead, our political system, through the representative system, has essentially derived its power from people being elected to represent and given full power to carry out whatever they deem fit, based on the behalf of the people who elected them, those they represent. And we just don't see that now.
No.
We see actions being carried out which support the views of whatever vested interest is in power at that time. And so, of course, I think that there could be more done to engage people on what they think about things like this.
Yeah. So working within the system to fight the system. Working within the system to fight the system.
You can't fight the system. You are the system. Like, there is a system.
Yeah.
The system, like it is a system. And if you're trying to fight the system, you know, I think you're going to wear yourself out pretty quickly.
Sure.
But if you exist in the system, not the system is within a system, and you just need to go in and change the system.
Right.
Yeah, I just don't like the idea of like trying to fight the system.
So you mean like set up a new system within that system, or change the system?
Just do whatever needs to be done from your perspective that you think is creating a positive change. Yeah.
Well, see, one thing I realised doesn't work. A couple of years ago when I went back to uni, I went to a couple of socialist meetings and just to see what they're up to. You know, because I'm a left-leaning guy, even though I wouldn't consider myself left or right, but more over towards the left, I guess. And for the first couple of weeks, I got a bit caught up in it all. Like I was like, they're always ranting and they're doing this and they're doing that, and the first couple of weeks I was like, yeah, and they're really intelligent people, and you know, it was really good. They're really good meetings. Found it really interesting. Then after about the third or fourth meetings, I was a bit like, oh, hang on, they're just another part of the same system. That's all they are. Yeah. They're fighting fire with fire, and it's just making the situation worse, rather than trying to create something new and something different. And it was a real lesson for me to understand that trying to make the world a better place and create these new structures or what have you isn't going to work by really getting in using the same methods that are already at our disposal, or the same methods are already given to us. We have to use different methods.
Well, what are these different methods?
Do you want to I'll get woo-woo on you?
Yeah.
Love.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all it comes down to.
Okay, but elaborate on this area, because for people like myself, for whom this is, you know, I grant you that, yes, that is a little bit outside the conventional thinking of how you solve problems. How is this applied? How is this applied to geopolitical...
Fucked if I know, Dave.
Damn, I thought we were so close.
That's a big question. It all out. Yeah. Oh, we were too. Yeah, I mean, well, it definitely doesn't come through hate. I mean, what I experienced with this socialist group was hate.
Right.
It was just hate, and that's what is used by in a geopolitical sphere now is hate. It's definitely not love and compassion. They might say they're doing things on the grounds of compassion, helping a war-torn country over here by supporting a certain group, but there's definitely no love involved. There's no compassion at the moment.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's going to take a big jump, but it can be done.
I completely agree with you. I think compassionate leadership is one of the greatest gifts anybody can give to their fellow, humankind.
And you look at the past leaders of the world who are trying to do that. You know, like Tony Blair. You know, taking, I don't know this full story, but isn't he like trying to? He's been working in the Middle East for the last 10 years.
Yeah, he has.
Trying to fix things there, but
that was my kind of like associating Tony Blair with compassionate. It just kind of threw up some sort of weird thought in my head that made me make that weird face. I don't know. I'd question how effective Tony Blair has been in doing any sort of peace negotiations in the Middle East, considering how things are currently. There seems to be a lot of different factions pulling left, right, and this is the area where the ISIS movement is essentially coming from and starting. Yeah. And he's been over there as peace envoy. No, I don't know, Adrian. I'd need to look into what he's done there, and it doesn't appear to be working. No. The place, by all accounts, is a mess. So. Yeah. So I don't accept Tony Blair as an example of compassionate leader.
Yeah, it's probably a bad one.
Yeah.
I think he's trying to show. Do you know what I think? Right. I think he's over there not for that part of the world. He's over there for himself.
Oh, big time! He's
over there, exercising demons. He's carrying some massive fucking demons, Tony Blair. I think it really weighed him down. His decisions while he was Prime Minister.
Yeah.
I think are really, because he's a good Christian, you know, he's all this and that, but he made some fucked up decisions, and I reckon he's really carrying those, and I think his way to be able to exercise them is by going over there and trying something. But he's not doing it for the people of the Middle East. No. He's doing it for himself. That's why nothing's working. That's why it hasn't achieved anything.
And he's over there, like, you know, he's over there brokering business deals.
Mm.
That's what he's doing. He's like
a
he's a middleman in business deals. He does a lot of that.
It's pretty fucked up.
Look. I don't know. What do I know about what Tony Blair does?
That's just a whisper going around.
Very little. Could be out playing golf for all I know.
Maybe.
But back to other compassionate leaders. You can come up with a better example than Tony Blair.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like people who try to do something actively, like, you know, it may be like Bill Clinton, and, you know, they all take up these causes and they all do different things, you know. But they were stylish, wasn't it? I had a C fall down my gut and I just lifted my shirt up to grab it off my stomach.
Nice.
Better not.
I wouldn't allow Bill Clinton on a list of compassionate.
Yeah, shit. Maybe there are none. Maybe there are none. What's John Howard doing these days?
The Dalai Lama.
Yeah, but he wasn't like he didn't come from world leadership in that governmental power thing, did he? He came from something that was already separate. He already came from a compassionate background. I mean, I'm talking about like compassionate leaders who were formerly non-compassionate leaders.
Nelson Mandela.
Oh, yeah. He's a good one. Yeah, that is a good one.
And I think that's probably one of the best examples, because
of course
the compassion that Nelson Mandela showed when he was released from prison after all that time, and making the decision to, not go after revenge, engage in peaceful negotiations, and bringing about the huge that man and all of the people who were working with him, they changed the country in the space of a couple of generations.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but he started out with non-compassionate means.
Oh yeah, he was, what, as they say, one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist.
Yeah.
So, depending on what side of it.
But he's a rare fucking story. Rare story. You think of Mugabe in Zimbabwe and even Castro in Cuba. You know, it's not often that the people there are better off.
Well, okay, now you put Mugabe and Castro in the same sentence there. Are you grouping them together?
No, I don't think I'm grouping them together, but there's similarities.
Dictator.
People wanting to get the fuck out of the country.
Yeah.
But not as much violence.
But the big difference, and Cuba being in the news this week, Cuba was subject to very intense sanctions from its closest. Cuba is right beside the United States, and for the last 40 years it's been under sanctions that have essentially tried to cripple that country as much as possible.
Yeah, keeping in the 1960s.
They've survived, albeit not very well, hence a lot of people leaving. And
also medical though.
Is there?
Yeah.
Is the medical treatment awesome though, or is it just that everyone gets medical treatment?
Well, good point. Yeah, I don't know.
Just because everybody gets medical treatment doesn't necessarily mean the medical treatment is great. I don't know, maybe it is. That would be one of the objectives under the communist socialist state system. Yeah. But having not been there, I don't know.
Sure.
But I don't think that Castro and Mugabe could be compared in the same way. I think Castro had an awful lot more to deal with the economic sanctions that were put in place. And
Mugabe's had those too, hasn't he?
I don't know. I think Mugabe just, when he passed the laws or whatever that were designed to take the land off the white farmers and give them back to local people, there was a lot of knowledge on the agriculture industry lost there, and a lot of the farms ended up failing, and essentially that country has just lost all its industry, and the flight of people has taken a lot of the knowledge out of the country, and it's just not able to produce.
Yeah, but it was the breadbasket of Africa, I heard once.
I think potentially.
I think it was, yeah. I'm not totally sure, but yeah.
Oh yeah, it probably was, like a number of years ago, of course it was, yeah.
Yeah, like 20 years previous to that, yeah.
So different. Anyway, so compassionate leaders, obviously, Castro and Mugabe are not examples of them.
Yeah, there's no one really, except for
What about old mate?
Mandela.
What about old mate down in Bolivia? President of Bolivia.
Oh yeah, what's his name?
I don't
He
know.
drives around his VW Beetle and just passed marijuana laws.
Sounds like such a chill dude.
There's actually a Vice interview with him, and they're smoking marijuana together. He's there smoking marijuana in the Vice interview.
President smoking marijuana. Does he get shit done?
I think he does, doesn't he?
I bet he just sits around all afternoon eating nuts and talking shit.
Trying to change the world
Yeah.
through talking about it. Yeah, but yeah, he's definitely like not that we're not just talking about it, but yeah, but he's someone who's really gone above and beyond and really changed.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I haven't read enough about him. He's come up a couple of times in conversations I've had with people. But surely, so if we can have him there, surely we can have compassionate leaders in our own countries. What's stopping it?
Yeah.
What's stopping it?
Business interests,
Yeah.
corporations and their interests,
I would say,
and power.
and I would say just a lack of appropriate, compassionate leadership candidates. You know, a lot of the really compassionate leaders end up going into, NGOs or dedicating their lives to doing various other things.
Yeah.
Not to say that anybody getting into politics isn't like one of these people, and that all, it's not that all people who get into politics are pricks, but a lot of them end up becoming pricks, it would appear.
Sure. Usually how it turns out. Yeah.
We
We look at Peter Costello and what's his bloody brother's name? Tony. Is it? What's his name? Tony Costello. Peter Costello. Is that his name? Tony Costello.
I don't know.
He was
I know
a
Peter
deputy.
Costello.
Peter Costello.
Yeah. Oh, so one dude was
He was a deputy to John Howard for lots
yeah,
of
and then the other dude's a big businessman.
the other dude's like works for charity organisations and does all that. He's been doing it all his life. He's a priest or something.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. I think he's... Fuck, what's his name? It's Peter Costello. His brother... Anyway, whoever the fuck it was. That's just such an interesting dynamic. To have two brothers, one a liberal fucking heartland supporter and the other really going out there for the people.
I would say I don't think that's not... For me, I think that's completely normal. I think you see that in a lot of places where you'll have one brother who does something over here and someone else in the family who does something completely different. I think what's interesting in that situation is both of them being such high profile people at what they do.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder what the parents are like.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder. Yeah.
Focused.
Yeah.
Not dirty weed smoking hippies, I bet.
No, probably not. They got shit done. Yeah.
Harsh.
Yeah. Alright, what do you reckon? What? It's 3/4 of an hour.
Yeah,
That's
look,
pretty good going.
yeah, we're just starting. Give me a chance there.
You doing it?
Okay, so
I'm happy to. Yeah.
yeah, but bringing it back to the Sydney Siege thing. So there's all the
Yeah.
things that haven't been fully. This is why I made a note of these things, because
Sure.
I
You get
knew-
the new electronic notepad out.
yeah, no, actually, I think we've covered everything that I wanted to talk
You
about
sure?
in terms of the Sydney Siege. Yeah, to be honest,
Okay.
I just think it's been done.
How about we give our conclusions then?
Yeah, for me, my conclusion on it: terrible tragedy. Something that needs to be addressed. The conversation needs to be had in our society around a number of things, around the circumstances which create incidents like this, or reactions to, like, the way that we deal with it when it happens, and what we do going forward from it. We need to think about all of these three things. I would say it's worth looking at. There has been a lot of conversation around the word Islamophobia and how Islamophobia is coming out right now. And I think, again, we need to have the conversation around what is Islamophobia, what is within the bounds of discussing in all of this. We cannot rule out the fact that the violence being threatened against Western societies, that the terrorism that we're fighting, is primarily grounded in religious fundamentalist groups.
Yeah.
That can't be ignored.
Yeah.
And is there something about being a religious fundamentalist which makes you more likely to be violent and carry out violent acts? These are things that we need to discuss, and not look at it from a perspective of it being about a particular race, like it being racist.
Sure.
Islam is not a race. It's an ideology held by people.
Yeah.
And
from all different backgrounds.
And ideologies should be subject to scrutiny.
Sure.
And I think that's another conversation we need to have in society without it turning into some sort of incendiary hate game.
Yeah.
And my final point, yeah, you're right. Love one another. Just be loving. Ride with people.
Ride with people.
them.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's my conclusion.
Nice, I like it. Yeah, you're right. The conversation needs to be there, needs to be had, and hopefully it doesn't go the way of the past, where we used to do it and then burn witches and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's what we're capable of in the past, but let's hope we don't do that in the future. I think it is. Yeah, my thought on it is that it's a tragic circumstance. What's happened is absolutely tragic. But now it's up to us whether we allow that circumstance to divide us or unite us. And in the past, it was too easy for us to be divided afterwards.
Yeah.
I think now what we spoke about in this podcast is we have the ability and the potential for it to unite us. And there were signs of that. So that was fantastic. And yeah, it's love. Just it. That's it. It's so simple, really. There's nothing airy-fairy or woo-woo about it, really. It's just, is.
No, that is totally woo-woo, airy-fairy. Right on. Like it is. Like everyone who's experienced it knows it.
Yeah.
And then all we have to do is just keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And the world would be a better place.
Yeah, the world would be a place. Just be a place with more love. So
it'd just be different.
It'll be different.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks very much, Daithí, for this podcast.
Awesome.
Very good. Once again, always very enjoyable. And yeah, well, thanks very much for watching, everyone. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Bye bye.